Hello, my name is Eva Moreland, and I have been a nurse now for 32 years. I am an RN BSN, and today I'm going to talk to you about dosage calculations because this always stumps everyone up. I see people in the forums in Facebook posting questions that they were given on a test or on a homework, and they always get stumped up how to do it. And I don't know why nursing school and nursing instructors want to come up with their own formula of how to do dosage calculations, because to be honest, it goes back to basic math. I want you to think back to when you were in seventh and eighth grade and you were learning about ratios. And from the ratios, you would set up your own equation, correct? Well, that's exactly how it is with dosage calculation. It's not any different. But if you just go back to, I want to take you back to seventh and eighth grade when you were learning about ratios. And let's pull that out of our head. And I'm going to show you how to do it just using those math skills. So I'm going to start with a simple problem. And I know that you can probably do this in your head. But I think if we start with a simple problem and take yourself back to how to set up ratios, and then you would be prepared to do more complex problems. Okay. And like I said, I've been a nurse for 32 years, so I'm not as up on tech as some of the young ones out there. So I'm just doing this by slides as I go along. But here's the sample that I want to use. So 650 milligrams of Tylenol is ordered for Mrs. Flynn. Tylenol comes in 325 milligrams per tablet. How many tablets should you give Mrs. Flynn? So let's first start with what we know. What do we know for a fact in this sentence? Well, we do know that 325 milligrams is to one tablet, and we want to find out how many tablets do I need to make 650 milligrams. So you ask yourself, 325 milligrams is to one tablet, as 650 is to what? Now that we have constructed our question, we want to start with what we do know, and we want to work left to right in our question. And in that question, and the question being 325 milligrams is to one tablet, as 650 is to what? So that's the question that we concocted. In that sentence, I want you to substitute the equal sign for the words is to. I want you to substitute the word X for the words what. And I want you to substitute divided by for the word as. So now your question should be 325 milligrams equals one tablet divided by 650 milligrams equals X tablet. Now we have a sentence, a statement that we can work with. And looking at this problem, we know that we now need to cross multiply. Okay, so what I did here was I fixed it in an equation, a mathematical equation that we can work with using our words and then substituting in the symbols. So going back to our original question, it says 325 milligrams is to one tablet, as 650 milligrams is to what? Now, substituting in those symbols, we have 325 milligrams equals one tablet divided by 650 milligrams equals X. So now we have something we can work with. So now that we have our equation, just double check and make sure that you have it set up right, because this is the most important step. When you're working with ratios and when you need to cross multiply, this step is very important because you want to make sure that you have your milligrams in one column and your tablets in in the other column. So we know 325 milligrams equals one tablet, as 650 milligrams equals X tablets. So X is how many tablets. We also want to make sure that going horizontally, we have what we already know together, usually like on the top, and what we want to know together, usually on the bottom. And this is the most important thing to make sure that you have your equation set up. So this is going to make you or break you when you do dosage calculations, is just making sure it is set up correctly. Milligrams together, tablets together. What we already know together, what we want to know together. So some people will write their equation out a little bit different, but as long as you have milligrams together and tablets together, and what we know together and what we don't know together, or what we want to know. So in this equation, we have what we know and what we want to know vertically versus horizontal in the previous slide. And we have milligrams in tablets horizontal versus having them vertical in the other slide. The moral of this slide is that sometimes another nurse might want you to check their work, and sometimes you want another nurse to check your work. It's always good, to get a second eyeball on it, when some of these get complicated. So just realize that they're going to do it their way and you're going to do it your way. Don't let them throw you off, because if you try to mix the two and they try to tell you, no, I do it like this, say, no, this is how I do it, and this is what makes sense to me. And hopefully this does make sense to you this way. So this is another way that you can set up the equation, and I think this is what nursing school and the nursing instructors are trying to teach you, but this makes no sense to me. No wonder you guys are getting confused, because this makes no sense. They don't have their milligrams lined up, they don't have their tablets lined up, they just something like desired over have and have over desired, and people get confused, and how do I put this together? And this makes no sense to me. The purpose of me showing you this is just to kind of contrast and compare it to the way I do it and the confusing way that nursing school tells you how to do it, so that you can understand better just the differences, and just know that, people out there will do it their way and you will do it your way. They'll have a way that they're comfortable with. You'll have a way that you're comfortable with. Okay, so now that I showed you the importance of setting your equation up correctly and how other people do it, and now that you hopefully are able to kind of separate the differences and make sense of all of this, we can now solve our problem. So again, going back to just basic ratios where you cross multiply, and hopefully you have seen this in grade school math. Um, and this just shows where you cross multiply, which means, of course, that you take the numerator of one and multiply it by the denominator of the other, and vice versa. You go over to the other side, take the numerator of that, and multiply by the denominator of that. So after we've done that, we now have 325x, or 325 milligram x, equals 650. So now we have it to where we want to solve for x. And we do that by narrowing it down to 2x. And how do we do that? We divide it by 325, because we have 325x. How else can we narrow it down to x? Divide by 325. And hopefully you've seen this in basic algebra in high school at least. So you have 325x divided by 325 equals x. And then you have 650 divided by 325, and that equals 2. So now you have x equals 2. And this answers your question of how many tablets of 325 milligram Tylenol that you should give to Mrs. Flynn, which is 2 tablets. So 325 milligrams is to 1 tablet, as 650 milligrams is to 2 tablets. Okay, so there you have it, folks. Hopefully by now you are cheering, because you finally made sense out of this dosage calculation, which nursing school seems to kind of complicate things up for you. They take simple ratios and try to come up with their own equation. I mean, yeah, their equation makes sense, but it's sometimes hard. It can sometimes be harder to set up, especially when you're trying to fit milligrams in with how many tablets and what you have and what you don't have and what you want to have. And so hopefully I was able to break down what they made complicated. Hopefully I was able to break that down for you, take you back to just basic math, to basic ratios that everyone knows and loves and is happy about. So I just wanted to wish you best of luck in your nursing journey, and hopefully we can catch up with each other in another video. Take care.